Welcome to When I Fell in Love with Hip Hop SCL. I'm your show host, Israel Picasso. We tuning live from St. Louis, Missouri. Today's guest is, can you introduce yourself, man?
Ian Guerin, singer,
Okay, okay.
songwriter, producer.
Where you from, man? Can you tell the crowd where you from?
Yeah, I'm originally from Mexico, and now I'm a citizen of the world trying to get my message across through my music.
Okay. How did you fall in love with the music culture?
Hey, well, first and foremost, it had to be Michael Jackson. Um, this is a funny story because my sister went to Michael's concert when she was little. I wasn't born yet, or I can't remember if I was born yet, but she went to a Michael Jackson concert, and fast forward a few years, and she wanted to get a record that included Smooth Criminal and Black or White in the same record. And so I went to the record store with my father. I was looking for a record that had both. At the time, I didn't know that the only one that had both was the History album, the double set, the golden records and all that. And so I was looking for one that had it, and none of them had it. And so I ended up getting her Invincible. And I got home and I was really excited. And I was like, hey, you know what? I couldn't get you the one that you wanted, but I got you the new one. And I was really little. And she looked at it and she was like, I don't know. I don't like it. That's not what I wanted. You can have it. And so I had it and I played it in a little, uh, I think it was a Walkman or a how do you call those CD players? The ones with
Yeah,
the
the
CD.
Walkmans, yeah.
And she gave it to me. I played it and I loved it. It was the perfect mix of R&B and hip hop and pop, and I loved it. And still to this day, that's my favorite Michael Jackson record. And then I started getting into his music more, and I already sung by then, but no, that was 2000. No, I didn't sing by then. So
Yeah,
I
we're gonna get
decided
into
that.
that. Yeah, don't yeah, we're gonna get into that. Now I gotta ask you, can you take us back to growing up, where you from? What type of things did you experience?
Well, when I was growing up, I was not the popular kid, definitely for sure. Not in school, not in elementary school or high school at all. I was popular in high school though because I sung. I sung Michael Jackson records, so that made me a bit popular. But before that, I was not popular. I was very shy. I was very insecure. I bullied at times, not a lot, but I experienced some bullying for sure, and I didn't like to go to my friends' parties when I was little, and I was a very shy kid. I spent a lot of time alone, and I had a lot of imagination. I remember, coming up with a lot of characters and playing with dolls that my sister had, and I would, you know, portray the personalities on them, and but it was always on my own. So when I got the Michael Jackson record, I started getting into that type of music more, into hip hop and into R&B and the pop music. I loved it, and I decided, that was my safe place. That was my safe place, and down the road, it made me popular in school. So it got me a lot of friends because once you sing at the talent show and you're good, everyone wants to be your friend, right? But not before that.
Okay, what was the first time you performed at a talent show or anything like that?
I was 13 years old, and there was like this pre. The big talent show was the Night of Talents, and it was at night, and so you had to do this like in the evening kind of thing before the hand, so that you would be accepted to the other one. So I performed Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train that day, and everyone loved it. And then after, in the Night of Talents, I performed Michael Jackson's Black or White, and that those were the two first songs that I did.
Okay, okay. What were the first records you put out, and what was the feedback you received?
The first record I put out was Bubblegum, and the feedback that I received was mixed. People didn't understand why I was trying to, why I had that bouncy hip hop sound. and I was still living in Mexico, so people didn't get the why I liked that. But some of my friends got it because we were fans of Snoop Dogg, and we liked 50 Cent, and we liked all those artists that were coming out at that time, right here. And but the feedback wasn't as great for that record. It was mixed. You know, I've learned to appreciate it with the years, and I still perform that song in particular because fans tend to like it. But it was until I made the Irreplaceable album that I got great reviews.
Okay. Now you put out a dozen singles and kept going. What does hard work mean for you in this industry?
Everything, everything. Hard work is everything. The first time I went to LA to try my luck, I had an advisor, and so he set me up a few meetings in the labels and stuff. And I got every experience. I got the good experiences with the VP of Virgin. We still friends, and I got the bad experiences, which were going to Sony Music and not being allowed in. And I had this. I don't have a copy now, but I had this digipack album. You know, it was professionally made. It cost a lot of money to make. It was professionally mastered, and I went there with my paper. You know that I had a meeting, and the A&R wasn't there, and the security guy that was at the front desk told me, you know what? I said, can I at least like leave my press kit because it was in a folder, you know, in the paper, and can I at least leave the press kit with the record? And he said, you know, you could leave it, but at the end of the night, if he's not here yet, it's gonna end up in the trash. So why don't you take it with you? You know, don't spend your money like that. Don't waste your money. And I took it with me, and I understood one thing, you know, that it wasn't going to be as easy because I think that as an emergent artist, as an up and coming artist, what you think is the moment I put a record out, people are going to love it and they're going to pay attention to it and they're going to, you know, go crazy over me because I'm crazy talented. And I have no doubt that there are millions and millions of artists out there that have massive talent, and I've come across a lot of them because they write to me, and I know that there is talent out there, and that there is more talent in the independent branch than in the signed branch. A lot of it. But the thing when I say everything is because that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen that way. When you put out a record, people, you know, just see you as you're trying, but they won't pay attention because they have established artists that they like and that they've established a connection with through the art of repetition. They hear them in the radio all day, they see them on TV. So you have to establish that connection. So hard work is everything because to get to that connection, you have to be out in blogs. People have to see you taking pictures. People have to see you recording your album. And you have to make the great music as well. And you have to be good looking. And you have to have the charisma and the stage presence. And you know, prepare for the show. You can't just go out there and put on a show and say, "Oh, I'm massively talented. I'll just stand there." You know, you have to rehearse. And I had the I'm going off topic a little bit, but this is a story that's worth it. The last year I had the chance to talk to Jonathan Sugarfoot Moffett. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's Michael Jackson's drummer from the 70s and 80s before the Bad Tour, and then History, and then the Special, and then for This Is It. You can we know him from the This Is It documentary, and I had the chance
Okay.
to talk to him last year, and I asked him a question. I told him, you know what, I'm making a mistake because I was performing the other day, and I started halfway through the song, everything started going really wrong, you know, and I couldn't hear the piano, and so I couldn't get back into the song. And he said, "Oh, you improvised, right?" And I was like, "Yes. How did you know?" And he said, usually when you're in where you're when you're in the show, you'll feel the audience, and then you'll want to change something to make it bigger for the audience in that moment. And then when it doesn't go as expected, or even if it goes as expected, then the next part of the song starts going wrong because that moment, that those milliseconds when you had to plan that moment, take your mind off of the next moment. So don't improvise ever. Rehearse 300 times, and that one time that you nail it perfectly is the one that you repeat for the next 300 shows. Don't ever improvise. And I've done it since, and it's gone great. And it was, he was sent from up above, really, because he helped me so much with that small comment that he made. And he said, when I was playing with Michael, there was no space for a mistake because sometimes he was using a backing vocal to help him with his movement. And so we couldn't mess up. And I especially couldn't mess up. So you learn that if you rehearse it, you'll flow as naturally as if you don't. And you'll flow even better because you know exactly what's going to happen each second. So when I say everything, it's everything. It's, people write songs and they'll write the verses real quick, and they'll play the first piano, and that's the one they'll stick to. And I'm like, I can work on a song. Listen, man, a song can write itself in 15 minutes, or it can take 15 days, or it can take a year. To me, I'll take a bounce of the song and I'll start hearing it and I'll start, okay, this piano can be better, this trumpet can be better, the drums can be better. If we put some chimes, that part will sound better. It needs a backing vocal here, a background here, harmony here. You have to work on your songs. I eat, sleep, and breathe my music and my work. Even when I stop working, I have a home studio and I record in several studios. And even when I stop working, and I take a shower and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna watch a show, have something to eat, go to bed. I'm getting into preparing the food and I'll be thinking in the song. And sometimes I don't load the bounces into my phone so that I won't be hearing them till 5 in the morning over and over and over. Because you have to put in the work. One thing that I've learned is things can be perfected, and it takes time to make it look that easy. I once remember
Yeah.
Brett Fu from LMFAO saying, people just think that we drink and party and that's all we do, but it takes hard work to make it look this easy. And so, to me, as an independent artist, it's like we have to do double the work because when you're on a label, certain things will come with that package that will be given to you. Working for that moment is what you have to do for yourself. But then once you get to that moment, then some things will be given to you. As an independent artist, you have to be your own publicist, your own manager, your own producer, your own everything. So, if you don't put on the work and you just sit there saying, I'm massively talented, then most likely you're going to be more talented than many people who are going to make it. And you'll see them on TV and figure, why am I not making it? And that's because they're putting in the work.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. Who are some of the producers you worked with on this sophomore album, Irreplaceable, and what was your motivation for the title?
I worked with my head producer who is co-producing with me. His name is Asmer Van Gordon. He's from Mexico as well, but his family is from the Netherlands, and so he's got this crazy mix of influences, And his mom played for the Philharmonic, and so they're a very musical family. And we worked on that album that we co-produced together, and he arranged it, and I wrote it. And the inspiration for the title was that I wanted to make it a meaningful album. One of the premises of it coming in to the project was, the past album, my debut album, Mad Sexy, was an album that had a couple of good songs, And but for this album, I want to use the off the wall kind of way of doing it. And the off the wall way of doing it was that I once heard Michael Jackson say, I wanted to make an album in which every song could be a single. And he made Off the Wall, with that premise. Every song that's in this record can be a single. And when I made it replaceable, that's exactly what I wanted. So the tracks are irreplaceable and the stories are irreplaceable because they made me who I am. And the stories are dedicated to people who, to me, are irreplaceable because they shaped me. They made me the kind of spirit and man and persona that I want to be. I'm influenced by everything, so it's irreplaceable because it's the breakthrough between being an amateur artist and a professional one, but most importantly, between being an insecure little boy and then coming back to becoming a secure man. That's what it's about. And it's about longing and about love, but it's also about being hopeful about the future. So it's kind of a theme album, even though it doesn't follow that structure.
Okay. What are some of the rewards you received, and did winning make you feel content, or do you want to build more for your legacy?
Do you want? I couldn't get that last part. What was it? Yeah, sorry.
I said, what are some of the rewards you received, and did winning make you feel content, and did you want to build more for your legacy?
Oh well, the rewards were aside from I won a couple of awards and it got me great reviews, and I've gotten some of the greatest reviews about myself that I've ever heard. And but the most important thing that it got me was the validation. I, growing up, didn't have much of that. I wasn't great at school, and I'm sure a lot of artists listening to your show tonight will relate to that. We're not great in school, um, but so I never got validation. I wasn't the guy that girls wanted. I wasn't the student that teachers, used as an example of greatness. I wasn't particularly great at anything else. So when I made this album and it started winning awards, to me it meant that I had found my place in life. It gave me a sense of identity. It gave me a sense of yeah, validation, but also relief. Like I'm no longer lost. So I think that this is going to go down in history and my story as the album that broke me through all the barriers, the album that made me know that the biggest wall was me. And once I broke it down, I'm unstoppable. I can get wherever I want. And that it will mean that, the beginning of the real me, the one that I, as a 6-year-old child, when I was little, I always thought of me as special. Like I couldn't define it. Like I felt special. I was like, there's something in me that's different to all the people around me, but I don't know what it is. And when I found music, I found that, people looked at me because not because I don't believe in that saying that says that you change the energy of a room, but your attitude does. And one of the best comments that I've gotten was from model and host Sherry Nelson. She told me once I was in her show, and she said to me, you know, I was telling her like, I don't know what it is. People look at me and they want to be near me, and he said, Ian, I think what it is that you got this innate bright light that when you come into a room, and you turn on the light, there you are. And she validated in those lines how I felt as a kid. So to me, I'll keep it short. I didn't keep it short, but I'll keep it short now. To me, it was like telling my 6-year-old, like, yeah, you were right.
Yeah.
You were right.
Okay. Okay. Uh, can you talk about how you were able to be featured on NBC, ABC Network, Fox TV, and a couple others? How did you get that
Well,
chance?
after a few years of creating the album, and after, as I said before, you have to be your own manager, your own publicist, your own everything. For about like 6 to 10 years, probably since I was 16 years old, or probably before that, after my first song, which was at 14, I started emailing it to everyone that I could. And I, by the time I was 18, I was sending around 100 to 150 emails a day. On average, I got one to none response. Maybe one response or none by each 100 emails for a couple of years. So it was very discouraging. It was very, very discouraging. But after a while, when I decided that I was gonna, do an R&B oriented album because that was the type of music that I was driven to, and um, and so when I started working on it, I was so proud of it. And this is an advice, that I'm gonna insert there for artists watching your show right now. You know, advice is don't follow the trends. Never follow the trend. Never hear the music that's outside and say, "Oh, I want to be like that. I want to be like him." Everyone else is taken. Be yourself and do the music that you want to do and believe in it. And if you create a product, even if it's gonna sound weird because it's never been done before. So when you put yourself into that mix, you're not gonna hear what you hear on the radio. So you're gonna say, it doesn't sound like anyone else, but that's the point, that's style. And if you got your own style and your own signature sound, then you're gonna get places. And so what I did was, I started experimenting. I started creating the album that I really wanted to make, and I was not bound to the sounds that people were telling me that were in vogue, and I wasn't bound to any of the styles of singing or any of anything. And I didn't want to do trendy sounds. I wanted to do timeless music, with chords and trumpets and pianos and instruments that can last. And so when I did that, I created an album that I was very proud of. And when you're proud of your work and when you're proud of what you created, then you incessantly promote it with no fear. And so fast forward to 3 years ago, it was 3 years ago, I believe, 3 or 4 years ago, after, a few trips to LA that weren't successful and whatnot, I came back and I sent my 100 emails as I always did. And I sent one to this TV presenter in Canada, and she had me on her show, and she was like, "I'm fangirling. You're so talented," and so she made me believe in myself, and then I started, planning to put out my record, and once I did, I went on and I sent her the record, and I told her, do you know anyone who can review it? And she said, actually, yes. And she gave me a name, and I emailed him and I said, "Could you review my record? I was brought to you by this Canadian personality." And he said, "I don't do reviews anymore, but I have a PR agency. Would you like me to hear your music and tell you if we could work together?" And I said yes. And my sister, who's also in the entertainment industry, and her associate did a background check on him. They talked to him. They had a meeting, and they set up. So I got my first publicist after 9 years, and he's the one who then, after like a year working together, he said, because at first, people say, "Ah, yeah, of course, you got a
Yeah.
publicist," but it was once I got to him, I started again from the bottom because he got me into blogs, with not a lot of audience, and then um, magazines with not a lot of audience, and then small places here and there, and then he said, "We're building your credibility, we're building your name, so that once you have all of this, and you'll be in a lot of podcasts, so that you practice." And once you get there, then we'll pitch you to another league, right? The next step of the pyramid. And so we got there till he was able to put me into NBC and Fox and bumper music from them and stations. It's not just the channels. It's bumper music from the radio stations, or play a few songs on. They got tons of outlets. When he sent me, like, it's a whole like 30-page um, paper of all that they got. So that's where it really comes from. It's not that I got to be like on their main shows because they got a lot of outlets, but I was there with the company doing
Yeah.
that stuff. So it takes a lot of work, and I'm giving you all of this background because I get a lot of
Okay.
messages from people who give me like, "What am I doing wrong?" And it's like, it's not, you're not doing. I don't know what you're doing, but you're maybe not doing it wrong. You just have to do it more.
Okay. That's real. That's real. Uh, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
You gotta look. What are your top five R&B or pop artists of all time?
Well, people say Michael is pop, but I think he's pretty R&B and New Jack Swing, and I love him. Michael, Prince, um, I would Janet, of course. You know, Janet Jackson. I love her. Her documentary comes out tomorrow, by the way. Um, Snoop Dogg for sure, and I have one fifth one that I it's R. Kelly, but people. I don't want people to say anything. He's a great musician, so um, but those were the top five, and now I don't listen to
Okay.
R. Kelly more, much these days. So I would say Janet, Michael. Oh, and of course Mariah Carey. I love her, but
Yeah.
but more into her hip hop, her hip hop years from the Emancipation of Me on. Not really her ballad, her '90s balladry,
Okay.
because I wasn't around for that.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to say before we get up out of here, man?
Well, if anyone wants to check out my music, check me out, or just comment anything, they can go to my social media handles, and those are at IAME Guerin, and Guerin is Guerin, and just hit me up on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm glad to reply to everybody. I'm glad to help them out. If there are artists listening, I'm glad to give them a piece of advice. I'm not there myself, but whatever I can help people with, I'm happy to do. And thank you for having me, man. I had a great time.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you coming on the platform. Before you leave, can you just say when I fell in love with hip hop STL?
Sorry, couldn't hear that last part.
I, I said before you leave, can you just repeat when I fell in love with hip hop STL?
When I fell in love with hip hop STL, it was tonight.
Okay. I'm your show host Israel Picasso. We tuning out. Peace.